What's going on, guys? Steve here with Geek Boulevard. It is that time of year again. 2025 is all wrapped up in a nice little bow, and 2026 is looking to be a very promising year for movies. And like I did last year, I did a most anticipated films list of 2025, and I'm gonna do the same again for 2026. And this is just something I just love to do, and it's definitely something I want to keep continuing to do every single year. So without further ado, let's get right into my most anticipated films of 2026. Now, what I usually do is I take a movie from each month of the year and I start from January all the way to December and pick which movies I'm most excited for that month. I have two honorable mentions that I'm going to talk about right now before we get into my official list, if you will. So without further ado, let's talk about our two honorable mentions, and we're going to start with Supergirl, which is releasing on June 26th. Yes, Supergirl is getting her own solo movie that continues the DCU with Millie Alcock in the lead role. And it was also confirmed that David Corenswet was going to be making an appearance as Superman in the film as well, which makes a whole lot of sense. Now, I'm not quite sure how I feel about this movie other than, I'm generally excited to see where the DCU continues to go. And having Millie Alcock, play this character, have her backstory explored, her origin explored, and just how she deals with some of all this stuff going on in her life. She's very much a troublemaker. She drinks, she curses, she does all these sorts of things that a superhero wouldn't typically do. Now, when it came to the teaser trailer, I wasn't really won over fully, I would say. The vibe that it was putting out, it just felt very much like Guardians of the Galaxy. And I know that James Gunn, he's not involved with the production of the movie, he's not the director, but he is the head of DC Studios, or the co-head rather. And I just felt like this tone for Supergirl, it just felt very reminiscent of Guardians of the Galaxy. The tone just hasn't really won me over yet, but this is only a teaser trailer. We'll get a full trailer at some point down the line, obviously, because this film is coming out in the summertime. I'm still excited generally enough, so I wanted to bring it to your attention anyway, because it is a superhero film, and I love superhero movies. Our next honorable mention, and I'm kind of sad that I'm making this an honorable mention, is Spider-Man Brand New Day, which is releasing on July 31st. Tom Holland returns as the wall crawler in this fourth installment, with Shang-Chi director Destin Daniel Cretton taking over for John Watts. And honestly, I love this choice. Shang-Chi, for most of the runtime anyway, was just this really well choreographed, well shot martial arts movie that was just so refreshing to watch. And Cretton just brings some of that grounded flair from Shang-Chi, it seems like that's what he's doing, into Spider-Man. So I'm really, really eager to see how he can put his own unique spin on the character, because he has stated that he is a big Spider-Man fan. My only concern is that there's a lot of characters in this movie. Jon Bernthal is making his first film appearance as the Punisher in this, and that's gonna be interesting to see, because this is gonna be a PG-13 movie. I don't know how the Punisher is going to do in a PG-13 setting. I'm not too optimistic about that. Also, we got Mark Ruffalo showing up as the Hulk in this, and from what the rumors are, and I hope that they're true, it appears that they're true, we're getting Savage Hulk again, and thank you God. I am so sick and tired of Smart Hulk. Can't take him anymore. I'm done with them. Just please, give me more Hulk smash. That's all I want. Originally, this was supposed to come after Avengers Doomsday, but due to the release schedules getting swapped around, now it's coming out before Avengers Doomsday. So I'm curious as to how they will connect the two films, or lead into Doomsday rather, but look, I'm a diehard Spider-Man fan, have been since I was a little kid, and it just seems like this Spider-Man movie is going to be very different from everything that has come before, at least when it comes to the Tom Holland ones. Even though there's a lot of characters in this, it just seems like they're definitely trying to stick with the down-to-earth, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man with no fancy gadgets, just a suit, his web shooters, and laid on his rent, as always. And that's what I want, that's what I need. Okay, now let's get into our official list of my most anticipated films of 2026, starting with January 16th, and that is 28 years later, The Bone Temple. 2 days before my birthday, actually. The second film in the planned trilogy of movies in the 28 franchise, picking up right where the first film left off. Spike is brought into the fold of Jimmy Crystal's gang of killers, and I'm very eager to see more of Jimmy, as he literally only had one scene in the past movie. Jack O'Connell is the one playing Jimmy, and he really won me over as an actor in Sinners. I had never seen him in other things before when he played the antagonist of that film, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings to this franchise as the sort of trilogy villain. I mostly want to see more with Ralph Fiennes as Dr. Ian Kelson, and it appears we'll be getting our wish, because he looks like he's going to have a whole lot more screen time than he did in the first film. He was easily my favorite character once he was introduced. I'm also eager to see Cillian Murphy as Jim from 28 Days Later. He has been confirmed to be making an appearance in this sequel, albeit a very small role. His role is apparently going to be much larger in the planned third film in this trilogy, should this one be successful, and I hope it will be. A lot of the early reviews are praising this sequel already, and it looks like as if the third one has already been greenlit. So I think it's safe to say we're gonna get the conclusion to this story. Releasing February 27th is the 7th entry in the Scream franchise, and I'll admit, when the directing duo Radio Silence brought the franchise back with the 5th film as a way to pass the torch to the younger cast, I thought that they did a really great job with it after such a long time of it being on hiatus, because Scream 4, when that came out, it just wasn't very well received, but Radio Silence really reinvigorated the franchise. And I even really enjoyed Scream 6 when they came back for that. My excitement for this sequel is more so out of curiosity to see like how much they retooled this movie. First, Christopher Landon was brought on to direct Scream 7. Shortly after that, Melissa Barrera was fired due to her political and religious beliefs on social media. Not long after that, Jenna Ortega left. And then Landon decides he's gonna leave too, because the two main stars that he intended to work with were gone. And it just doesn't make sense to stick with a project when your two main stars that you had your script revolving around are just no longer there. Now the film needs a huge reboot behind the scenes, so Kevin Williamson, who has pretty much been the driving force behind this franchise as the writer of the first two films and Scream 4, eventually was brought on to direct. Neve Campbell comes back as well after she gets her demands met in her terms of pay. And not only that, we get Matthew Lillard coming back as Stu, which I don't fully understand since, you know, he's supposed to be dead, but whatever. They need people to sell this movie. They need to get butts in seats after all this drama. Do I think it's going to be good? Not really. It just feels like they're banking on a lot of nostalgia for this, and I don't know if it's gonna work in this case. Also, Williamson has only directed one prior film to this, which received negative reviews, so my hopes are not too high, but I'd love to be proven wrong. Hitting theaters on March 20th, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller bring their creative talents to an adaptation of Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary, which stars Ryan Gosling as science teacher Ryland Grace, who is way out of his depth when he's selected to go into space to determine what is causing the Earth's sun to die out. After watching the first trailer, I was immediately on board with this. The funny jokes of Gosling just trying to tell these government officials that like he's not an astronaut and not right for this whatsoever, but teasing later on that in fact he's the perfect man for the job and the one to save our planet from annihilation. Lord and Miller are great directors, and the fact that Drew Goddard is writing the screenplay is icing on the cake for me. His writing is so good, and Gosling's delivery with his dialogue, it's all a mix of things I love. There's mystery, there's sci-fi, there's comedy, and there's heart as well. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing all of these great talents just make something exciting, make something special for the audiences to see. Up next, we got the Super Mario Galaxy movie kicking off on April 3rd, and I am so excited for this as I was pleasantly surprised by how much I loved the first movie. I was a little underwhelmed when it was announced that Chris Pratt would be doing the voice for Mario, as he just didn't really seem like the right fit to me, and he was already playing the voice of Garfield, which also didn't seem like a good fit. But then I saw the movie, he won me over, I'll be honest, and just the amount of fan service and Easter eggs just sprinkled all throughout that film was just the cherry on top. Yoshi was teased at the end, so we're certainly going to see him show up in the sequel in some way. I love the different nods to some of the more recent games like Mario Odyssey, but most importantly, Galaxy 1 and 2. Galaxy 1 being considered arguably the greatest Mario game of all time. Illumination and Nintendo got a good thing going over there. Let's see if this sequel delivers on everything it promises, and I'm pretty sure it will. Coming out on May 8th is Mortal Kombat 2. A lot more characters making their debuts here. We got Shao Kahn, we got Kitana, we got Jade, we even got Baraka, and of course, Karl Urban as the one and only Johnny Cage, who's going to be the central character in the sequel. And might I say that this was the smartest decision in, centering the film around an established character that I actually give a fuck about, as opposed to some dude that was created specifically for the movie that apparently is the chosen one, and that was like my biggest gripe about the movie overall. He was boring, and the actor Louis Tan, he was just so wooden with his dialogue, with his performance. Let's just say I didn't love the first movie that much. I think overall it was kind of cheesy in terms of like the performances, but the violence was great, seeing the fatalities and everything, and it looks like we'll be getting much more of that ×2. So, I mean, I think it's only natural for that to happen in this sequel. Am I gonna miss the opportunity to see twice as many fatalities? No, not at all. Coming out on June 12th is the next film from the legendary Steven Spielberg, and that is Disclosure Day, which is all about UFOs and the demand for the truth of what is out in the universe in terms of life. And this is something that the world is currently dealing with. Like, there's a lot of secrets from our government that we don't know about in terms of life in other galaxies. Are aliens already existing on our planet? Probably. And this movie dives into people just being ready, like, look, we're ready to hear the truth. We need to hear the truth. The trailer really hooked me, and it made me want to go back to watch War of the Worlds, which is probably my favorite Steven Spielberg movie. It's kind of hard to really pick my favorite overall. Jurassic Park is definitely up there, but I don't know, just something about War of the Worlds and just how that film plays out is just so underrated. I loved every minute of it. Also, that one scene of Emily Blunt making those like clicking sounds. It's kind of creepy, right? There's nothing I love more than a movie about UFOs, science fiction, and just the fact that the most respected filmmaker in the industry is going back to that genre. It really gets me excited. I mean, do I really need to say more here? This next film is coming out on July 17th, and it's from one of the most renowned filmmakers in the industry and my all-time favorite director, period. And that man is Christopher Nolan, who's coming out with a little indie movie called The Odyssey. Nothing major. The Odyssey is a piece of literature that will always stand the test of time. And to see Nolan tackle this Greek epic with his style is something I cannot wait to see. It's the most expensive film he's ever made, with a budget, I think, like over 200 million. I think it's like 250, maybe more than that. He has a stacked A-list cast. You have Tom Holland, Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, Charlize Theron, Jon Bernthal, Robert Pattinson. I mean, the list goes on and on. Matt Damon is the star. I'm really eager, though, to see how he tackles those mythological elements with his skills. He's a filmmaker that puts his movies through a more realistic lens. So I'm curious to see how he's just gonna tackle a Cyclops and all these other mythological creatures in Greek myth. I hope to see it in IMAX 70mm, because that's really like the most intended way to see a Christopher Nolan movie these days. But it depends on how far I'm willing to drive to go see it and have that experience. We'll have to wait and see on that. Coming out on August 28th is The Dog Stars, and this is being directed by none other than Ridley Scott, which will star Jacob Elordi in the lead role and Josh Brolin co-starring. And I don't know too much about this movie or about the book. I haven't read it, other than it takes place in a post-apocalyptic world after a flu epidemic pretty much just wipes out most of humanity. And there's only a few survivors, and our cast of characters try to seek a better life outside of their, their current living situation. Scott is a director that can tackle any genre. He's done science fiction, he's done horror, he's done grand epics like Gladiator, and he's also done crime dramas like American Gangster. He's done romance. The guy is a jack of all trades, and I think a post-apocalyptic story is something he hasn't really done before, at least not to my knowledge. So I'm eager to see his take on this type of story. And Jacob Elordi is on fire right now with the Frankenstein movie on Netflix and his upcoming Wuthering Heights with Margot Robbie that will surely have like packed theaters come Valentine's Day weekend. This next film is dropping on September 18th, and I was pretty concerned about it before, but I think I'm breathing a little easier knowing how this director plans to handle it. I'm talking about Resident Evil and director Zach Cregger's approach to this massive franchise, which is approaching its 30th anniversary, no less. Cregger has gone on record stating that he isn't looking to bring any familiar characters like Leon or Chris or Jill into this story. This will be an original story set in the universe. After seeing Barbarian though, and especially Weapons, like I trust this man to deliver a very refreshing take on the franchise. I think Welcome to Raccoon City was the only film in the franchise that really tried to make it faithful to those games despite it not being very good. But I do give it points for attempting to make it as faithful as possible. Whereas the other ones that, Paul W.S. Anderson did with Milla Jovovich, those ones were just, they were cheesy in a good way at first, and then they just got progressively worse and worse as those movies came out. So again, I'm just curious to see Zach Cregger's fresh take on this franchise. Coming on October 2nd is Digger from Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu, who directed Birdman and The Revenant, which is just an amazing film through and through. What has me excited about this movie is that you have a director like Alejandro who is a master at getting one continuous shot of a scene and just mesmerizing you with all of the stuff that's going on in that one shot. And then you have Tom Cruise, who is the movie star playing the lead character. I don't know what more needs to be said, just sign me up. This is supposed to be a black comedy, but there's not much else we know other than that announcement video of it being made. But I honestly don't fucking care. I can't wait to see more of it. I think Tom Cruise's comedic chops were really underrated in Tropic Thunder as Les Grossman, and I want to see him tackle some different projects other than just Top Gun and Mission Impossible. And he seems to be doing that. And I also think he's doing a horror movie as well, which I'm also eager to see. The fact that this next film is going to be released on Netflix with a limited theatrical run, most likely, is just a crime in and of itself. And that is Narnia, the Magician's Nephew, which is releasing November 26th. Greta Gerwig takes the reins here, and she's adapting the first book chronologically in the series, but the sixth book published, which is quite interesting. I have a real fondness for the first two films, especially The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Voyage of the Dawn Treader, I didn't really like all that much. I found it kind of forgettable. I'm very excited to see what Greta's, take on this property is going to be like. I love Barbie for what it was. I'm not sure if she's contracted to make more of these movies. I would not be surprised if this is like a one and done thing and she kind of passes the torch on to the next director for the next film, but I can't wait to step back into Narnia and be whisked away on a fantastical adventure. I just wish Netflix wasn't the one who backed it. Now this last one, I'm gonna cheat a little bit here because one, it's my video, I can do whatever I want. And two, why would I not talk about both of these cinematic experiences that we're going to witness here? It's impossible for me to not talk about both of them, and that is Dune Part 3 and Avengers Doomsday. Yes, both are releasing on December 18th, which is absolutely crazy. Remember when Barbenheimer was a thing, that double feature of Barbie and Oppenheimer? People were like, yeah, let's go see Barbie, let's go to dinner, and then we'll cap it all off with Oppenheimer. And like, that is something I can picture myself doing. And if they don't delay either of these movies, that's what I'm gonna do. It's gonna be a double feature night. Comic book movie fans, film fans in general, we're eating good in 2026. Now, I don't know who coined this term. It might have been Boss Logic who did this, but the day is now being known as Doomsday, which is just so clever. Also, shout out to Boss Logic for doing like those posters teasing Doomsday. I just thought that was really cool. The Dune movies have been my most favorite blockbusters in recent memory, especially Part 2. I mean, like, my God, everything from the set design, the costumes, the performances, the cinematography. I just got so lost in the world of Dune that I just immediately craved more once those credits rolled. So I can't wait to see what Denis does with the third film and how he just kind of continues that story. But Avengers Doomsday is going to be something really special. And if these teasers are anything to go by, this next one, the X-Men one, is already hyping people up. There's a low quality version of it that was leaked. I haven't seen it, but everyone's saying like even the low quality version is getting people really fucking excited. And I'm really just mostly excited just to see the X-Men. That's really all I care about. Yeah, it's cool that Steve is coming back. We kind of already knew that though. We had a strong feeling he was gonna be coming back. We knew that Chris Hemsworth was coming back. His chair was shown off in that ridiculous chair video that I couldn't look away from, but was getting bored with at the same time simultaneously. But there's just so much about Doomsday that we don't really know yet. And the way that Marvel is marketing this movie right now, I would not be surprised if they're intentionally leaking these trailers out to get people talking. And it's working, people are talking. I did do a reaction to the Thor trailer that's up on the channel right now if you want to check it out. A double feature of Dune Part 3 and Avengers Doomsday. And that is my list of my most anticipated movies of 2026. And there's definitely a few more that I'm looking forward to, but we don't know much about them yet. And I had to really pick and choose. I'm like, oh, I like that one. Because like there's also a new Mummy movie coming out and a couple other ones that I'm eager to see. But these are the ones that I am most anticipating, and I can't wait to be around to check these films out, review them, and just give you guys my thoughts, because I love talking about movies. It's honestly one of my favorite things to do. But thank you guys so much for just sticking with this channel. We are at 300 subscribers, which is something I just didn't really expect ever. This is just a hobby that I really love to do, and I want to continue to do more of it. Thank you guys for watching. I really, really appreciate you. I love you all so much. Now remember to stay classy, stay geeky, and I'll see you in the next video.